Good afternoon and welcome to the LRA's webinar on business interruption insurance coverage and how it relates to civil authority closures and limits on operating hours. I'm Stan Harris. I'm the president of the Louisiana Restaurant Association, and I'll serve as your host today. Should you have a question, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll work to answer your questions in our time together. We'll be recording this webinar as well, so you can find it on our website at lra.org. lra.org after the event. We want to welcome our two presenters today who have broad understanding of insurance coverage and the insurance market, especially for restaurant and hospitality businesses in Louisiana. I'll introduce both presenters, then allow them a few minutes for a brief introduction, and we'll move into our core subject. First, I'd like to introduce our Commissioner of Insurance, Jim Donlan. Commissioner Donlan has served over 15 years and has been elected to 4 consecutive terms in office. He served as chair of the Jefferson Parish Council and as a member of the State House of Representatives. And prior to becoming commissioner, he served as executive council and chief deputy commissioner. He's been recognized as his peers in chairing the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And Jim is a welcome voice in the media when we're facing historic weather and other natural disasters, and is a great friend to the LRA. Commissioner, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Stan. It's my privilege to be with you today and hope we can contribute somewhat to this very complex and very important part of your industry relative to the insurance part of their lives. We got a real baptism by fire a little over a year ago, as you will recall, when the pandemic hit. And there was a lot of focus on whether or not the effects of that catastrophe would be compensated by business interruption coverage. And nationwide, there was a movement afoot initially to mandate retroactive coverage. Actually, got all the way up to the President of the United States urging retroactive coverage for business interruption as a result of the pandemic. That sent everyone to their policies, looking for the language, and learned pretty quickly, both on Capitol Hill and in all the state capitals around the country, that there was not coverage for pandemic interruption of business. And in addition to that, if they tried to impose retroactive coverage that was not priced for at the outset or before the event, it was likely to bankrupt the insurance industry in our country and beyond, frankly, if it were to spread around the globe. So today, I hope we can share some insight around business interruption that, as I said earlier, is a very expensive and very vital and very complex part of the restaurant industry's business world. Glad to be with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our next presenter is going to be John O'Brien. Many of the folks in our industry know John. He serves as regional director for the hospitality practice of Gallagher Insurance, Risk Management and Consulting. John's placed many of his trusted clients in the LRA Workers' Comp Fund, and we certainly appreciate that. He provides services to many of our marquee LRA member restaurants and hospitality businesses. And in speaking with John, his concern about how hospitality businesses could successfully make a claim under their business interruption coverage resulted in us getting together today. John, welcome.
Thank you very much, Stan. Happy to be here. Really would like to help. Ida was just another blow to the hospitality industry on top of the pandemic. And I want to use my experience and knowledge of the insurance world to help your members and the hospitality industry on collecting the monies that they're due under their business interruption, if they do have business interruption coverage. It's been quite a task, and I'm here to help try to make this simple for the members, try to give them tips on how to get their claim checks from their insurance companies under their business interruption coverage. So I'm here to help. So ready to
Thanks, John.
work.
And if you could talk a little closer to the microphone, it would be a little clearer that we could hear you, because part of it was coming in and out there. So we want to make sure that we get all the information. So John, since you brought up these issues, I'd like to ask, there are various elements and retentions and deductibles for business interruption coverage. Can you give us a little bit of context on business interruption coverage as it relates to a hospitality business, what they might purchase? And then maybe follow that up with a bit of specifics on the civil authority area that we've talked about within the BI policy.
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah, so business interruption is a property insurance coverage that you have to select when you're purchasing your property insurance along with your building. Or
John,
content.
we've lost you again.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir. It starts strong and then it fades out just a little bit.
Okay, let me see if I can adjust here. Hold on a second.
Even after 2 years of doing this every week, we're still learning more about Zoom.
Yeah.
You know it.
Am I better? Is it better now?
Yes, again, it's if you'll stay closer to the microphone, I think that'll help us.
I can't get much. Can you hear me? Can we do it now?
Yes.
So as I was saying, business interruption is part of property insurance. So you purchase business interruption insurance along with your building and contents insurance. If you've selected business interruption insurance, it will reimburse you for your lost revenues as it's related to the ongoing business expenses and net income. So it's an accounting claim. You have to have your accounting records in order to provide the insurance company the necessary accounting for them to adjust your loss. It's up to you to provide the accounting records to adjust the loss. The insurance companies may provide you an accounting service, but you really need to watch over those records. Business interruptions triggered by fires, or primarily what we're talking about today, is hurricanes. So when your business is closed, you're having an interruption. In this case, what I've seen is the many businesses were closed because of the curfews. If you have business interruption, the curfew is a covered loss, and you're able to put that claim to your insurance company in order for you to recover your ongoing businesses and business expenses and net income. And that's why we're having this webinar today, is that I've seen many hospitality businesses not taking advantage of their business interruption because of the curfews that were imposed in the 13 parishes. So I wanted you to make aware of that. It is a covered loss. And if you have an adjuster or an insurance company that isn't knowledgeable enough, you need to ask your agent to help you through that process. And if it doesn't work, you can certainly go to the Department of Insurance and they will help you.
John, one of the things we talked about when we were putting this together was the possibility of engaging a public adjuster. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yes. What we found is, just like hospitality businesses, the insurance industry is short on labor for the field adjusters, the inspectors, and the inside adjusters. It's just the nature of what's happened from COVID. And because of the shortage in labor, you may need someone to help you with your claim. Public adjusters need to be licensed by the Department of Insurance of the state of Louisiana. And there's a list of them. I believe the department may provide a list. I think Jim could talk about that. And they can help you walk through the accounting process to identify how much your claim is and providing the accurate accounting records. Public adjusters, you can find them by Googling them, and they should list that they're licensed in Louisiana. They will usually take between, there's a fee that they have to charge on a per hour basis that may amount to 8 to 10% on a fee basis. But it may be well worth it if you were closed for, in some cases, from up to 3 weeks to a month. So again, it depends on the curfew that happened within your parish. And then importantly also is they'll be able to help you identify if your business interruption claim went beyond the day that after the proclamation was lifted to where you could open if your sales did not reach the same point. So they can help you through this process because it's somewhat complex. And what I'm finding is that the insurance industry just does not have enough people to go around for this major catastrophe. And it's difficult, but if you're persistent or if you get help, it is a covered loss. And I want you to certainly try.
Okay, thank you, John. Commissioner, just a quick question. If an insured submits a proof of loss submission like this on a business interruption claim, let's say they use a public adjuster, let's say they use their CPA or anything else to help put this information together, how long does the insurance carrier have to respond to that or decline that particular coverage?
Well, by law, they have to respond within 30 days of getting a satisfactory proof of loss. Therein lies the problem. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and what is a satisfactory proof of loss can go back and forth and drag out for some time. So be as exhaustive and as complete as you can be, supporting that proof of loss, a description of what your loss is with photographs and estimates from contractors, engineering reports if necessary, any evidence that would help to buttress what you claim in your proof of loss documentation is the complete total loss that you've incurred as a result of the covered peril. It can be drawn out, but it also can happen very quickly. And the more thorough you are in putting together that package of documentation, the quicker you'll get to a resolution. And with commercial policies, like restaurants typically have, there's more concern on the part of the insurer with not dragging the process out, because generally speaking, restaurants are sophisticated and have access to professional help. You mentioned CPAs. They are probably the most important factor in successfully submitting a business interruption claim by their ability to document how much your loss was based on your previous income, tax returns, and other evidence. So yes, I strongly urge early engagement and as complete a package documenting your loss, including the income and profit aspect of it, supported by your CPA in order to get through the claims process.
So let's make the presumption that the insured's gone through all the steps and can't move their insurer. What's the next step for them?
Well, one of the things that I would join with John in suggesting from a commercial policy point of view is the accessing a public adjuster. We have now licensed 598 public adjusters, and just about half of those, 251, since August 26, 2021, 2 days before Ida hit us. And those folks are typically from the industry and in their earlier work life, worked for the industry on the other side as a claims adjuster. So they are expert at knowing what to look for, how to document it, and can be invaluable in assisting the owner in pursuing their claim. The limitations on public adjusters are unique in our state. Back in the immediate aftermath of Katrina and Rita, we, in a special session called by then Governor Kathleen Babineau-Blanco, for the first time licensed public adjusters. And it actually was in the same special session that we, for the first time, licensed adjusters as well. In my earlier life as a legislator, I tried to pass legislation to license adjusters and was summarily rejected in that effort. But after Katrina and Rita, the legislature was ready and willing to become part of the third, let me make sure I get this correct. They have, it was a third of the states when I tried it in the late 90s. By 2005, after Katrina and Rita, it was about half of the states that were licensing claims adjusters. And we joined that half. It's now about 2/3. Public adjusters jumped into the special session through their two associations advocating for licensing law here in our state. And we accommodated that, but only after lengthy negotiations with the representatives of the Louisiana State Bar Association. And those negotiations ended up putting limitations on the authority of public adjusters in our state, starting with, and the one most controversial, is a prohibition against public adjusters utilizing contingency fee contracts in Louisiana. The only state in the United States that licenses public adjusters, but does not allow them to use contingency fee contracts. The Bar Association said and convinced the legislature back then that the right to do that is limited to the practice of law. And to allow them to do that would be in part allowing them to practice law without a license. In addition to that, the legislature in that licensing session put a limitation on their ability to interpret policies and how coverage might apply to your situation. Again, because the law under as interpreted by the Bar Association considers such activity to also be part of the unauthorized practice of law. So with those limitations and with that background on the value of a public adjuster, I would say the first step in pursuing your claim from a business owner's point of view would be to consult and see if you can get a reasonable price for the cost of engaging expertise through a public adjuster. At any time, before engaging a public adjuster, while or after, we at the Department of Insurance are available to field a complaint from a aggrieved policyholder, restaurant in this case, who's not happy with the reaction, and in many cases, the lack of reaction or even communication with their company as they pursue their claim. We are, as I describe it, the Better Business Bureau for insurance matters. And we receive complaints on a 1.5-page form with as much attachment as the policyholder wants to submit. We email that to the company being complained against. They have 15 days to respond. That response is available to the complaining policyholder as soon as we receive it. And if we find that that company has been in violation of their duty to their policyholder, we report that on to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners located in Kansas City, Missouri, that maintains a database of all complaints filed against companies and the outcome, a valid finding or a not valid finding or a partial in between outcome is maintained and available publicly at the NAIC for business owners, for policyholders looking to check out a company before they obtain or renew coverage with their insurer.
Understood. So John, in talking about engaging that public adjuster, negotiating the best fee possible, I guess would be something that you'd recommend to someone that has already looked at this claim with their CPA and they feel like they might need some expertise?
Yes, I agree. I believe they should negotiate the fee to the best of their ability. And I'm seeing that public adjusters do a very good job in supporting, providing expertise in presenting their business interruption loss to the insurance company.
Yeah, I know there's only so much you can do as a broker because you're the person that's representing that policy holder, but you also have that relationship with the insurance carrier. And when the carrier is non-responsive, there's sometimes that they just have to go to the Department of Insurance to seek some help in addressing that particular grievance. So I know that's something we don't like to do, but I know when we have these mass losses like this, and there's so many claims that to get people some relief at times. I know, Commissioner, you've always been a strong advocate for policyholders in trying to get obtaining their payment for covered claims. So this is all part of that, I'd assume.
Oh, absolutely. No question. All 50 states and the territories unanimously say, Democrat, Republican, elected, appointed, our first job is to protect consumers. And actually, agents are in a tighter position than we are. We are solely responsible to the consumers of insurance products in our state. Agents have to walk that middle line. In their case, they represent both sides. They represent the company, and we need companies to make insurance not only affordable, but also available for these vital coverages that we're discussing here today. But us as insurance regulators are tasked with first and foremost protecting consumers, and a subpart of that is to make sure that they are solvent when they sell that insurance, so that they can live up to the promise they make when they collect premiums on those policies. But what we're discussing today, Stan, is a very complex and very vital and but also challenging aspect of our insurance lives for business owners who are put in the position of having to file a claim for business interruption. But keep this in mind. This is first party coverage. So that payment, once completely justified, is due, and it is due immediately. And so there are penalties in law for those who do not pay after a complete and satisfactory proof of loss is submitted, because this coverage is like your health insurance. It is not dependent upon liability on the other party. If you have suffered loss as a result of a covered peril, not pandemic, but certainly hurricane winds, then not nuclear attacks, but certainly fires in the premises that are insured, and other coverages that are typically included in a business owner's policy, a BOP policy, or commercial property policy. So complex, expensive, but vital to keeping our economy going, and in particular in New Orleans and throughout Louisiana, in the restaurant part of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, I know a lot of our members are loath to make claims for fear of impacting future ability to have coverage. And my first response to them is always the same thing. File your claim, file it timely, put as much information into it as possible. You know, we in our workers' comp world, we've got a different set of regulations that guide what we have to do. But once we accept that claim, we've got to do everything we can to mitigate it, manage the costs, get that injured worker back. It's the same in recovering and restoring people's property or their business losses. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. And you make a good
Agreed.
point about the duty of the policyholder, of the business owner, to minimize, to mitigate their damage, whether that's putting a tarp on a roof or getting help to tear out wet sheetrock or what have you. That duty is present for the policyholder in a business policy, in a commercial property or a business owner's policy, and continues just as it is present in a homeowner's policy. But that cost is part of the coverage that your policy makes available. So accessing the help necessary is legitimate and covered, but keeping documentation of what you paid to minimize that damage is necessary in order to recover it as part of your claim.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. John, do you have anything that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Just be persistent. It's a big catastrophe, and I tell my clients we've got to be persistent in order to get the insurance company the time to respond. You'll be paid, but you've got to be persistent.
And you've got to have a very defined proof of loss that you can stand up and know that you've documented that accurately. So that's certainly very helpful. And John, thank you for bringing this to us today. Commissioner Donlan, any final thoughts or suggestions?
No, I would just echo what John just said, and that is we're dealing with, frankly, we're just now approaching 4 months post the second worst event, hurricane loss event in our state's history, second only to Katrina and Rita back in 2005, and
Wow.
larger by, I think, a significant number of claims and dollars than what our state experienced last year in the southwest corner as a result of Laura, Delta, and Zeta in the southeast. And those events ended up delivering to policyholders $10.5 billion for covered claims that have been paid in the year and 3 months since Laura hit the southwest corner of our state with 150-mile-an-hour winds. That money was paid over 330,000 claims. We expect this to be about twice that, and the payments to be about twice that, which will put it right up there with the Katrina, Rita insured losses that devastated our state 15 years ago. But in closing, I do want to end on a positive note. For the longest time, the historically largest insured loss event from any hurricane or other event was Hurricane Andrew. And Florida, stuck out in the middle of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, went 12 years after that before they had another catastrophic season in 2004. We went the last 5 years before last year without any hurricane events of significance making landfall in our state. So although we've had back-to-back horrific seasons, it's not necessarily going to be that way in the future. And we can reasonably expect and hope and plan for a decade or more of quiet hurricane seasons, even as vulnerable as our state is. And having said that, let me finish by giving my 800 number, 259-5300. We man those phones every day, all day, and can accept over the phone complaints that any of your members are having with their claims. It can also be done online. LDI, Louisiana Department of Insurance, .la.gov, LDI.la.gov. We're here to help. We have expertise like your agent does, and we would welcome any opportunity to serve any of your membership.
Well, I want to extend our thanks to John O'Brien of Gallagher. John, thanks for bringing this to us. And Commissioner Jim Donlan, thank you again for your care, your interest, and always making yourself available to talk about this. If you'd like to learn more about this or other topics related to your hospitality business, please visit our website at lra.org. That's lra.org. Or you can email questions or follow-ups to communications@lra.org, communications@lra.org. This webinar should be online shortly. We want to wish happy holidays to everyone from the Louisiana Restaurant Association. Thank you very much for joining us today.